There's not going to be that much of a logical order here. I'm just going to kind of jump around and bring you through my 2019 artistic experience. Midsommar, the new film from Ari Aster, who previously gave us Hereditary. Now he's back with a breakup movie that is also about a cult. Fantastic movie and experience on every level. A movie I also didn't expect to be as moving as it is. Even calling this horror, I would hesitate to do. There are definitely some horrific things you're exposed to, but horror is a weird way to describe it. It is deep, complicated, frightening, hallucinogenic. So many things, so many emotions and states of mind I felt myself experience throughout this movie. Incredible performances, incredible score, incredible cinematography. This thing all around, excellent. Seen it a couple times. I'm definitely going to see it some more. I guess this is what you would call the emotional horror movie. You know, like Captain America Civil War. Shout out to everyone who remembers that bullshit. The new Tarantino this year. Excellent. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Not exactly the movie a lot of us expected, I don't think. Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt and Al Pacino and Margot Robbie and this glorious cast, and it's set in Hollywood. The Manson murders are involved. I at least expected that, quick-witted Tarantino rapid dialogue, heightened violent plot, and that is not what this movie is at all. It's very slow and meditative and takes its time. There are stretches of the movie where there is very little dialogue to be heard, and you're just kind of living through these scenes and experiences with these characters. And that's not to say there isn't some great classic Quentin Tarantino dialogue in this movie, because there certainly is. And it has one of the crazier climaxes in any of his movies, and probably one of my favorite as well. When this movie came out, I saw it at the Hollywood Theater out here in Portland, and they actually were playing trailers for previous Tarantino movies before the movie instead of, the regular standard coming attractions, and that was pretty dope. Actually, one of my favorite Tarantino movies. I think I would confidently say that at this point. This one's kind of weird to say. Kind of love the shit out of the final Avengers movie. I know even saying final is this comically tentative prospect because these movies will go on indefinitely. I often think about my death, being on my deathbed. There's a small Chinese boy next to me. He's wearing an Iron Man mask. Jarvis. I don't know why he's calling out to Jarvis in a British accent, as though, he only responds that way. Jarvis comes on and says, "Hello." It's Paul Bettany. He's inside this boy's head, essentially. This boy says, "I make weapons, but now I make security and peace for the future." And he looks at me with his glowing Iron Man eyes. They're very devilish, scary. And I sit there thinking about all of this time that I have spent watching Marvel movies I don't care about, and then ranting about them and being scared about what they might do to cinema. This boy, he reaches out to me and grabs my arm. I'm like, ow, that fucking hurts, because have a degenerative skeletal condition. But he grabs onto me and just whispers, "It's all gonna be okay." And I drift off. And so, that's why I thought Avengers Endgame was pretty good. I'm no Chinese boy, but I loved this movie. I loved it quite a bit. I think it delivers on pretty much everything you would want from an Avengers Endgame, from a climax to this franchise. The action is pretty spectacular, aside from a couple moments where I think they rely a little too heavily on, shaky cam amidst these overblown CGI sequences, and it starts to look kind of mucky. Overall, though, very, very solid action, and more so than the action looking amazing, I think it has the impact that it needs to, because it's delivering on all these character moments you've been promised or that have been teased and titillated in you for some years, and you finally get to see it all come to a head. I think emotionally it's really solid, has some really good performances in it. Just really didn't have any problems with it. I thought it was pretty fantastic and about as good as blockbuster entertainment gets these days. Taking another little Chinese boy into this next topic here. which is the superhero movies that were not very good this year. One that I thought was going to be really cool and ended up being just kind of okay, and that's Brightburn. I still thought it was okay for being this like slasher superhero movie, but just didn't have any weight to it beyond that I was expecting. Shazam was pretty great. I thought that was solidly funny and provided a nice like stark visual contrast to the Marvel movies, where the Marvel movies have that like wet cement look a lot of the time, which I was one of the first people to talk about, by the way, before like, Patrick Wilhelm or is it Wilhelm? Those videos are fantastic, but I'm just saying, I've been on this Marvel shit for a minute. I've been talking shit about these movies for a long time, and I used to get so much shit for it, and now people are finally waking up to it. And I think I deserve some credit and a little bit of fucking money. I'm starting a Patreon, and the premise is, fuck you. I used to have a YouTube channel years ago. Do you remember what it was called? I'm not even gonna say it anymore. But it got taken from me. Years of time sent down into the trash. And now I exist on an empty plane. There's some people here, 650 or so of you. You're not watching this video. You're like, remember when you talked about albums and reacted to songs? Yeah, I fucking remember. Do you remember being born? No? Well, you're a fucking idiot then. It's not that hard to remember. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. This is ridiculous. If you don't remember being a baby, there's no point in being alive, I guess is what I'm saying. And why don't we start killing some of those, by the way? Way too many people here. Let's talk about cleansing a species. I've been thinking about Asian boys for so long that I don't know what to say anymore. Spider-Man Far From Home was another weird one, where the first act with all of the high school drama was awful, and I kind of like some of that stuff with Spider-Man Homecoming. So bad in Far From Home. It has this dramatic uptick. The second act, when Jake Gyllenhaal starts to reveal his true intentions, and that performance gets fleshed out more, is so good. One of the best middle acts in any Marvel movie. And then it just kind of has a mediocre climax, but very strange how awful it starts and how decent it ends up being. Of course, then the climax is drone warfare, and you can feel Kevin Feige just coming helicarriers out of his fucking disgusting dick. But very good up until that point, after a dramatically bad start. Were there other superhero movies this year? Did I miss one of them? I don't know. I feel like I'm blanking a little bit on that. I thought Jordan Peele had a really cool follow-up to Get Out this year with Us, which fell apart to me near the end when they tried to explain what was happening. That was borderline absurd and kind of fucked with how I was feeling about the movie up to that point to an uncomfortable degree. But conceptually fantastic, great performances, some tense sequences, a lot of laughs throughout. Really, really solid follow-up, and had some nice, like, potentially iconic horror imagery. An anticipated follow-up this year that did not go the way of Us was Glass. Holy shit, that movie was bad. Coming from one of Shyamalan's biggest defenders here. I mean, I have seen The Happening like 5 times over the course of my life, and I don't even think that movie is good. The movie looks cheap as hell. The music is bad. I mean, if you were really gonna have a true Unbreakable sequel, you can't do that without at least some kind of budget and having James Newton Howard there for the score. I miss like the old school Shyamalan team up. That is sorely lacking in this Glass movie. His directorial stamp is barely there. They totally shoehorn in Anya Taylor-Joy's character. There's no reason that she should even be a part of that movie. And the quote-unquote twist of this one is just so bad. So bad. I wish I could unsee this movie. I'm sure he'll bring us at least another cool movie or two in his career. I'm not like shitting on M. Night Shyamalan forever, but this one was a big disappointment. With all of the years that I've thought about the idea of an Unbreakable sequel and then having that awesome setup, that just was bad. It was not good. I saw Jojo Rabbit the other day. I liked that a decent amount. I don't really get how this is a politically divisive movie whatsoever. It's so inoffensive and easy to take in. Anyone who's being offended by this movie is a complete fucking pussy. There are some jokes that bomb pretty hard in the beginning of the movie, but I think it picks up steadily as it goes along. It's got that classic Taika Waititi humor throughout, and I just think it's charming. Like, it's a very nice, sweet movie, and I would say heartwarming. It was heartwarming. It felt like a movie I would see in 2012 when I was less cynical and would just go see every movie no matter what it was. And a movie that I would sit in and be like, okay, I have some problems with this. This is like a 7 out of 10 kind of movie, but still come out feeling good about, and like I hadn't wasted time. This was one of those, because like a lot of the times now, unless I see something that blows me away in theaters, even if I'm like, that was pretty good, I come out feeling like I wasted time. Like, why did I just spend 2.5 hours of my day to see a movie that I'm like, yeah, that's a 6.5 or 7 out of 10 movie. That was kind of fun, but there was some shit that annoyed me in it. Like, I'm getting over those. And I miss having this kind of experience where I'm like, yeah, there are some things clearly wrong here, but overall, good. Made me feel good. That was nice to have. You know what else is nice to have is a downloaded, tracked out version of the Yandhi leak, because that album is really good. It was about 83% finished. Kanye scrapped it. You know what's not good to have is fucking Jesus is King. Not only did he butcher some tracks from Yandhi, or at least make kind of less interesting than they are in that form, but the album that he has decided to make in general is this gospel album. Yeah, if you gave it to a 13-year-old me when I was really into like my religion and the church, sure, I probably would have thought it was the coolest Christian rap album of all time. But I am not a 14-year-old boy anymore. The only 14-year-old boys I talk to are my best friends, and I influence them, and they influence me back. There are some younger ones, the young Chinese boys we were talking about. I know a lot of young Chinese boys. That is why I'm making this video, to tell you about these boys. These boys are kind. They are smart. They can build a lot of things very quickly. It is not weird that they're my friends. It's not weird that I buy them food, that I buy them Christmas presents, that I buy them a night out to a comedy show. They are smart and they are hardworking and they know what they're talking about. Have you ever even considered having a nice steak dinner with a boy from a foreign country just to see what it's all about? Probably not, huh? Try to open your fucking mind a little bit before you judge me that all of my best friends are employed young Chinese boys. Take a look in the fucking mirror, realize that you are not the most optimal version of yourself, and that maybe that could help. And don't judge someone just for having a different lifestyle than you. How about that? Get yourself a fucking boy and come back. And don't show up with a fucking attitude either, because guess what? Yours is mine now. That's my boy. We're going off to the Grand Canyon now, and you can't say shit about it. You came here with a shitty attitude. I took your boy. We're gonna go see some fucking sights. Get your head out of your ass, get a boy, move along. Whew, anyway. Jesus is King, not a very good album. I did like what he did with Everything We Need, which was previously After the Storm on the Yandhi leak, or The Storm, whatever it is, that had a really dope XXX Temptation verse before he turned it into Everything We Need. Hands On, I think, is definitely the best track on the record. It has some really interesting thematic content, which is sparse on Jesus is King. It's the most in-depth Kanye goes on the album into like why he has made this transition, and feeling all of these pressures from various angles, from like the devil himself, but also the Christians who he's now trying to associate with that are not like reciprocating this same energy back to him and are taking his previous life and using that as something to just crush him and hold him down. And I think that song really resonates in a way, even if I think the route Kanye is going with his life is absurd and not the way to go, to like get put into a religious cult and then push away all of your mental health struggles because God will take care of them for you. Like, that's not the way to go. I do not approve of this Kanye direction. It's not very cool. It's not very entertaining to me even at this point. But I do think that is a sympathetic position that he's in this new place in his life. The songs end really abruptly. They'll start with some promise and then just cut out, and it's super frustrating. Yeah, Follow God is okay. Hands On is good. Salah is kind of interesting. Kind of. There are some songs that are tolerable, but it's just not very good, and it is not the Kanye album experience that I like to have. Because most of the time with a Kanye album, I sit there, I'm blown away, I'm like crying. This was just me sitting there very confused and disheartened, and I really hope that he doesn't make anything like this ever again. And if he does, like, get more hands-on with it. But also really do that and approach these religious themes with some analysis and reflection, not just like, I am now this religious robot, blah, blah, blah. Tyler, the Creator, had a great album this year, and Igor. We had the Vampire Weekend album was good. James Blake dropped a good album. DaBaby makes some fun music that's come out this year. Yeah, there's some good stuff. The Sandy Alex G album, a lot of really good albums, nothing that has just fully blown me away. The latest Brockhampton album, the first 7 tracks or so, like 6-7 tracks, is incredible, and I think it has a pretty dramatic fall off, but still really liked that album. Really liked Kevin Abstract's solo album this year. I actually think I like that album a little more than Ginger, to be honest. I think the thing with Arizona Baby for me is that tonally and aesthetically, it carries this more consistent vision, whereas Ginger, I think, jumps around in a lot of places and is relatively successful when it's trying to hit those marks. But there are some weaker spots, and Arizona Baby to me has only grown, and those songs have only become more catchy and interesting and emotionally relatable as time has gone on. So really digging that. Like Ginger too, but probably my least favorite Brockhampton album that isn't All American Trash. Whatever, it's still a good album. They still make great music. Really pissed I haven't seen them yet. They haven't made my favorite sweatshirt that I own, the Iridescence one. It's like, I love Brockhampton, all right? Obviously, look at me. Let's talk about Logic for a second. Old Mixie himself dropped 2 of the worst things I've ever heard this year. The soundtrack to his novel, his supermarket novel, You're a Pretty Young Girl, whatever that song is, oh my god, I laughed so hard listening to that the first time. But I also laughed almost as hard listening to Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, his album that he put out like only a few months after. The dude went from being this super interesting up-and-comer to one of the worst rappers in the game, period. The amount of cringy bars he is putting out regularly is deeply concerning, and I can't tell if it's just ego and the people he's surrounded himself with, or if he's on some fucking drugs. But either way, this dude is putting out awful music, truly awful music that I recommend to everyone because it is such a stunning thing to behold. El Camino hit a few weeks ago. This is the sequel movie to the Breaking Bad series with Jesse. And the way I described this was, it was the best and most pointless movie I've ever seen. This didn't really add or take away anything from Breaking Bad, for me personally. What it did show us was all very well done and provided some really enjoyable scenes. I loved Jesse Plemons in this movie. Like, yeah, he's 60 pounds heavier than he was as Todd in the time that they're trying to depict. But he is so fucking funny in this movie. Like, everything he says with his weird, sociopathic, strange personality is so funny every time. The whole bit with the cleaning lady and the soup and him listening to that song in the car and them in the desert, like, all of that stuff was so good. And the point, not really sure. I had a little bit of an issue with the final Jesse moments. Not like the very ending of the movie, but the climax, I guess you would call it. The Western. I'm trying not to spoil anything in this video, but that whole thing with the dude and the standoff. What the hell was that? Why? Aaron Paul was great in the movie. I kind of thought he would end up being a little too showy, just given the fact that he's getting this opportunity to reprise this role and hasn't had a lot of success outside of the role. I thought he may be a little too, he can't keep getting away with it, and that would be like every scene. But he was really good, outside of one scene where he was trying to play a younger version of Jesse, and it was just bad. I think half of that was his fault. Half of it is the fault of the costume and makeup people, who seem to be nearly non-existent for this movie. But I did enjoy it quite a bit. It's well-paced. It has some tense sequences. Super unnecessary, but super good still. Like, Vince Gilligan is killing it. He kills it. I know there's been a lot of great TV, and that's kind of the thing with this time, is that we're in this golden age of television. I've seen some of it in recent times. I don't even feel like I want to talk about it in this. I'm sure I'll make another one of these, like a part 2, and I'll probably go some more into TV shows that I've seen as of late. The only one that I want to talk about in this one, just because it's fresh on my mind, is part 1 of season 6 of BoJack. You still have some goofy subplots and like fun BoJack Horseman hijinks that you expect, and all of the puns and all of that. But they are really wasting no time getting into the nitty gritty of what this character has been about for the entire duration of the show, and going deep into the alcoholism and familial trauma and what happened with Sarah Lynn. Like, they're going deep into this while also rounding out the side characters on the show quite a bit. Like, they're doing a lot with Diane and going to who she is as a person and like how she functions in relationships. Same with Princess Carolyn. Like, they're taking the time to treat these characters in a very human and complicated way. And it's super exciting to watch. Like I said, it's still funny, but where they are going with it and where it leaves off for the next half of the season, I couldn't be more stoked. And it's looking like it's turning out to be one of the better final seasons of TV comedy that we've had. Really, really digging that show for this final season. And it's had some weaker spots. I wasn't a huge fan of the second season or the last season to a degree. But when this show is great, it's great. And if it keeps on this track and finishes out strong, I think I will remember it very favorably overall, and perhaps some of those middle seasons, or just moments in those seasons, because there was still great stuff in there, but perhaps some of that lesser content will age better if they conclude this well. So fingers crossed for that, but excellent so far. I have seen the least amount of movies in theaters this year than I have since probably 2009. It has probably genuinely been a decade since I have seen as few movies in theaters as 2019. It's for a few reasons. I mean, my life has been pretty hectic. I've gone through a lot of things in the past year or so. Some pretty intense things, some traumatic things, some beautiful things, some awful things. I've really been having a life in this time that you haven't seen me, and it has been quite a long time. So if you're here and you're still here in this video, I'm sure this is a bizarre place to be. And it's a bizarre place for me to be too. I've lost a lot of the drive I used to have to seek out art. And that's really sad to me, because this is a thing that I care about a lot and I love talking about. And I know I'm kind of rusty in this because this is my first time really trying to do it in a while. And there's no real form to what I'm doing. I'm just kind of cycling through some thoughts about these various pieces of art. But this is a weird place for me to be. I actually want to do it again. I have ideas for, podcasts and concepts for what this can be on YouTube. And it's a weird place to be coming to again, because my life has been so strange. when I've been fully removed from it. And to come back, it almost feels like I'm trying to attain this simpler time, or this better time for my stress levels in my head. I don't know. It's very weird trying to come back to this. So if you like it and you like hearing me talk about things, that's super cool. I'm going to try to grow back into it. But yeah, it's been something. And I have started to focus on music a lot. I released an album not too long ago, only a couple weeks ago, and a couple more songs afterwards. I'll put the links to that stuff down there if you're curious about it. So it's not like I've removed myself from artistic feats. I've been pretty into doing the music, and will continue to do that. But in terms of analyzing art as opposed to being a part of it, I've been doing that less. But I miss it. And I miss talking about movies. I still keep up with a lot of the movie news. I know what's happening out there. I still talk to my movie friends. Not as much anymore, and I want to do that more. But I'm ready. I'm ready to come back to this. We got more of these videos coming. There's going to be podcasts. There's going to be things. Have a good night or day. Get yourself an Asian boy.